On today's video, we're going to be looking at the top 10 reasons why the state of Florida is going to crap. The first and most obvious reason the state of Florida is heading in a bad direction is corruption. The state of Florida is literally rotting with corruption, in particular lobbyists for insurance companies, putting the interest of large corporations ahead of the interests of the people of Florida. The Orlando Centennial recently published an article about a Democrat in Orlando who was found to be doing exactly that. It seems like over the last few years, almost every single law that the state of Florida passes in some way or another indirectly benefits either developers or insurance companies. Take SB 1718, which at face value was an immigration law, but digging deeper into this law, it will seriously benefit developers as well as insurance companies are getting exactly what they want out of state legislature. Number 2 is vacation rentals. A lot of money is being made in the state of Florida with vacation rentals, and vacation rentals have also become an absolute nightmare for the full-time residents of the state of Florida. SB 280, a new Senate bill in the state of Florida, is going to come after vacation rentals. Vacation rentals have jacked up the prices of real estate in Florida, and thus there's more profit for realtors. Imagine if you have a family in a neighborhood like Naples Park, and around you are houses that are all being rented every week to different people. Who the crap is going to rent a house to a full-time resident for $2,000 or $3,000 a month when you can rent it as a vacation rental for up to $8,000 a month? People in Florida are completely being outpriced of living in desirable beachside communities. One of the biggest reasons that housing is so expensive in Florida now is because of these vacation rentals. Vacation rentals are seriously a plague among the coast of Florida, and it's completely turned coastal communities into absolute ghost towns. And let's not forget that instead of having full-time residents along the coast, now you have nothing but investors, which means that if there's an economical downturn, these areas are going to fall hard. Number 3 is dependency on tourism. While tourism is the largest industry in the state of Florida, it is a very unreliable source of income. For the most part, it's temporary, and all it takes is a hurricane, a red tide, or a 2020 for tourism to completely disappear. Thus, the largest industry in Florida is unreliable. Dependence on tourism is extraordinarily vulnerable. Political, social, and even weather changes can completely destroy this sector of the economy, and thus the entire state of Florida depends on an industry that is unreliable. The state of Florida is number 36 by income, but it is in the top 3 by cost of living. The state of Florida refuses to attract high-paying jobs for fear that it will change the political landscape of the state. They're looking for a particular demographic to move to Florida, and that means excluding high-income jobs from the state. Florida has incentives for taxes for high-income earners, but they don't want to attract high-income jobs. In other words, they want you to bring your high-earning income to the state of Florida, but they don't want a high-income job to exist in the state of Florida. Those types of jobs attract families with children, and those types of families usually don't vote for the type of government that they want in Florida. Number 4 is inspection rackets. Whether you are a restaurant owner or a person buying a new home in Florida, let's say you're randomly building a house in Lee County, Florida. In Lee County in particular, certain builders have somewhat of a monopoly over the inspectors, in which they're the ones that are able, those individuals who are part of the circle, in 6 to 9 months are able to have their permits issued. They literally have a racket on the permit process. Let's say you have a restaurant anywhere in the state of Florida. You're going to have to pay off the right people. Otherwise, your chances of staying in business are slim. In some places like Collier County or Dade County, it's just about paying. Other places like, let's say, Arcadia, Florida, it's not so much about paying, but who you know and whose toes you're stepping on. If one of the people in the county already has buddies and they have a particular type of restaurant and you're going to open up competition for them, please believe that in these types of places, you're going to lose your investment and they're going to make your life absolutely miserable. And thus, these inspection rackets in the state of Florida are limiting the state's economic ability. Anytime businesses are being extorted by county inspectors, you have a problem. You're also having to now pay extortion rackets to those individual gangs. And this is a problem that's been present in the state of Florida for a long time. Number 5 is real estate fraud. They get you to sign a contract to sell a home. Among that paperwork, they slide a deed, what's known in Florida as a quit claim deed. And as the name suggests, you are quitting or giving up the possession of a property. This scam has been going on in Florida for a little bit now, and a lot of times they wait until the property owner dies, and then after the person dies, they have it notarized. They don't notarize it until the person dies. Thus, this is happening to a lot of people in the state of Florida. I'm not going to really elaborate too much on how it works because I don't want to put people on to scamming. During the 2020 era, we saw something called a bait property, where they list a property for less than what the property's worth. It attracts a lot of buyers, and it's a bait and switch. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, there exists a lot of threats in Florida, and there's a lot of realtors out there who have absolutely no problem engaging in shady activity. But basically, if you end up in the wrong hands in the state of Florida, you can quite literally lose your property. But the way the laws of real estate in Florida are laid out, there's still a few vulnerabilities. The state of Florida has implemented laws, like a recent law in the state of Florida that makes it illegal for people in certain countries to own real estate in Florida. And that just opens to a whole realm of problems as you're wiring money to somebody in a different country. Number 6 is the incompetence of local governments. Take Manatee County, where I live. One city commissioner was arrested for stealing potted plants. Another city manager was arrested for another criminal allegation. How these people end up in these jobs, I have no idea, but we could go county by county and just elaborate how ineffective and incompetent the people in government in Florida are on a local level. Many of these people are just doing the bidding of corporations, developers, insurance, and other interest groups. Thus, they're completely ineffective at what they're supposed to be doing because they're too busy looking out for the interests of other people. Number 7 is unincorporated communities. Take Lehigh Acres, which will soon be close to 200,000 people, and it is not an incorporated city. It is still managed by Lee County, Florida. Again, corruption plays a huge role because as an unincorporated area, there are some very lucrative contracts and kickback schemes that they can run with the county that benefit people like fire department and other people who do county maintenance in a great way. Huge economical incentives. Thus, these unincorporated communities are somewhat of a cash cow for people associated with local government. And it keeps on going on and on. There's communities like Lehigh Acres, Lakewood Ranch. You could just go on and on with communities in Florida that have extraordinarily large populations, but they're not incorporated. The logical thing for these communities would be for them to become incorporated cities, but they don't become incorporated cities because there's lucrative contracts that are in association with these types of unincorporated communities, and thus the prosperity of Florida's future is once again being jeopardized by people who are making a killing through corruption. When you start to see communities that have hundreds of thousands of people and they're not incorporated, that's definitely suspicious. And in Florida, it's happening way too often. Lehigh Acres being a prime example of a place that for some reason isn't a city. Number 8 is the trampoline. The state of Florida has just become a trampoline for circus monkeys to jump and get noticed. Florida is under the national spotlight, and thus from the governor to your local sheriff's office, anybody who has a government position in Florida is trying to jump up higher into the political trampoline. You're going to see sheriff's officers who love to be in front of the cameras, like it's the case of Grady Judd or the Marcino guy in Lee County. These are individuals who just love to be in front of the camera. They love media attention. Even the current governor of Florida is just passing laws that are not even being enforced or implemented. They're just laws to make a statement about how great they could be, because again, they're jumping on this trampoline to get attention because they have other political intentions, like, for example, maybe wanting to be the president or wanting to be a governor. Thus, the state of Florida has become a complete circus where people use their positions to enrich themselves, to advertise their own political careers. Take Lee County Sheriff Marcino recently under fire for doing exactly that. People are wondering, hey, why is this guy using public resources to promote his face? And thus it creates a situation where individuals in local offices are not really doing a great job at the position they currently have, but they're just jumping on that trampoline to get attention for their real career aspirations. You got clowns like the Lee County Sheriff. This guy literally takes a podium and bring a podium to the middle of a field where somebody was killed because that's his opportunity to get media attention. It's really shameful. It's a waste of resources. And again, it's individuals who, again, are just looking out for themselves at the expense of the people in the state of Florida. Number 9 is ill-informed buyers. This is really a problem for the state of Florida. A lot of social media and propaganda by the state and individuals trying to promote their counties, they're putting out a narrative about Florida that's somewhat misleading. They don't know about the liabilities that these properties are going to have. They don't know anything about these communities based on their political views. Completely ill-informed buyers. The blind leading the blind. It's really scary how many people are investing in Florida and they don't know anything about the state, and they're not going to be here for the long term. When they start to find out about the hurricanes, the insurance, the real estate fraud, and all the other bad things that are related to owning property in Florida, they start to bail out. And eventually all these people that are buying now are going to be bailing out. And then those realtors will make money on the way in and on the way out. Number 10 is environmental sustainability. And again, this goes back to people not understanding too much about the state of Florida. Drying up the Florida Everglades, canal systems like Cape Coral, the largest in the world, as well as hurricanes like Ian, which contaminated Southwest Florida. I think we are looking at 100 to 1,000 years of contamination. The ecological impacts, a 14-foot storm surge in an urban area surrounded by estuaries in Manatee County and Polk County, one of the largest mining operations in the entire world, if you didn't know. Take the Florida Keys, where almost 90% of the biomass is gone. A large percentage of the coral reefs are dead. And instead of seeing fish in the water, you see cans of paint, garbage. And then you also have homeless camps on Key West that are dumping all their garbage and human waste into the waterways. What used to be a treasure of Florida ecology is now an open landfill. The Florida Keys have been destroyed. You have fish and wildlife and vegetation that are endemic to South Florida and found nowhere else in the world. You have mangrove swamps that are the largest in North America. You explain these things to people who are not from Florida, and they don't understand that the type of ecology and landscape and aquifers that you have in the state of Florida are not endless. People don't understand that the snakes are gone, the box turtles are gone, the biodiversity, actually the biomass is 90% extinct, and that what we're looking at in the state of Florida is only a percentage, a fraction of what was here 20 or 30 years ago. And it's this lack of understanding of Florida's ecological vulnerability in unprecedented events like Hurricane Ian, as well as the endless expansion of development with absolutely no forward planning. Back to Lehigh Acres, Florida, the vast majority of these people are on well water and septic tanks. It's a complete disregard for Florida's future. What it would take to save or prevent or somehow just slow down the destruction of Florida's ecology would be something similar to the regulations that the state of California has, but try to convince people in Florida that the ecology matters,